Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Hoopsville on a Monday afternoon. Hope you're enjoying the start of your week. I am your host, Dave McHugh, coming to you from the NABC studios, thanks to our partners at D3Hoops.com. Of course, WBCA and Blue Frame Technology as well. I want to thank all of our partners for their assistance with everything that they give us, especially, there isn't even an especially, but obviously D3Hoops.com for their support all year round. Of course, National Association of Basketball Coaches, who have been incredible since this studio, since the studio was created. WBCA has been wonderful in their support. And of course, want to thank Blue Frame Technology. That's how we're on the air. We're web streaming to you. Or you can watch us on the big screen via your Amazon Fire, Apple TV, Roku, Android TV apps. Just look up Team One Sports there, and you'll find us. And easy to find the show there. Obviously, bring it to you live. You can even watch it on demand. Lots of ways to get a hold of us, and we hope you'll take full advantage of them. We got a jam-packed show today. I'll just get out ahead of it. We do have new top 25s that will come out later today. We are not doing a top 25 segment today, mainly because we just want to kind of keep things fresh. So we're going to wait a week. Just kind of shake things up, give ourselves a pause. We started talking about the same teams. Let's shake it up and see what a couple weeks gives us. So we'll give a pause there. I want to thank all of the guys who have been part of that, but we'll just give that a week off this week. Apropos of that, right now it looks like Thursday's show that we were hoping to pre-tape and put together is not going to happen, mainly because, folks, I'll be honest with you, I'm a bit exhausted. I've got a big business trip coming up this weekend that starts on Thursday. We would have to tape the show Tuesday and Wednesday. We've got other obligations as well, including this evening, which is why we're on the air today. And you can ask the guys, I might be sleepwalking. There have been a couple of things I've posted into our Slack channel that turns out I had the wrong team or the wrong gender or whatever. I'll give you one funny one that I thought was funny. Just the last one I did. I said, oh my goodness, Stevens Point beat Platteville. They reacted accordingly. And then one came back and said, that was women, Dave, not men. I read that 3 times. And for some reason, my head did not pick up on the obvious fact. So that's happened a couple times. I am a little bit exhausted. A marathon may have done something with that, but I was tired going into the marathon. So I think unless something changes, Thursday's show, we're just going to take a pause on that as well. I know it's not great timing because regional rankings come out Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday for men, Wednesday for women. So we'll find something we can do to at least react to those. Whether we do maybe a quick show Wednesday night or we do something on Twitter called Spaces, which we did after the convention. That's another idea. We'll figure it out. We'll tweet about it. We'll let you know. We'll at least react to the first regional rankings. I promise you that. You just won't be able to put a full show together. The trick is Wednesday evening, I'm supposed to be at Goucher to do a game, so it may have to be late Tuesday afternoon. Thursday morning, then I'm out the door for my trip. So maybe once the rankings come out Wednesday, of course, the men will come out Tuesday, so maybe we'll do something Tuesday afternoon or evening. We're just going to look at the logistics and figure it out. But we'll get something out there. It may only be audio. It may only be via Twitter Spaces. We'll let you all know about that, but we'll at least react to the first regional rankings. Again, the men are coming out Tuesday, the women Wednesday. We talked about that with Megan Wilson and Mike Schauer on the Marathon show last week. And Meg basically said, listen, that was the intent. We were going to go with the men, but we found out kind of after the fact that the men were doing that, and not after the fact, that's not a knock on the men, it's just after the fact that on the women's side, some of those racks had already started setting up their meetings and letting coaches know when they were going to be needed. Hey, coach, we're going to need you on Tuesday mornings. Okay, so now coach goes and looks at February, carves it out, and says we're going to be doing other things on other days to account for that, or we're going to change our regular season schedule to just know that late in the season we're going to be tied up on Tuesday mornings. Well, changing that after the fact maybe just isn't fair to those coaches. So some of the women are meeting on Monday, the racks. Some of them are meeting on Tuesday. The national committee will meet on Wednesday and get their regional rankings out Wednesday. I suspect next year they'll all be on the same page. Men will be getting them out on Tuesday. So it's a little bit of a kind of a herky-jerky there, but we'll react the best we can. Reminder also on those regional rankings, they are alphabetical in this first ranking. And I know that there's going to be a lot of questions about that. We will, on the show page, share a link to the chat that Pat and I had about those regional rankings in November about them going alphabetical. We'll also share links, I hope, to other conversations we had with Mike Shower and Megan Wilson about that and the fact why they're doing that, especially our conversation in early December about it. It makes sense from their perspective, especially Mike's. Talk about they don't have all the criteria, including results versus regionally ranked opponents. It looks flawed. It doesn't seem right. So instead of putting them numerical, we'll put them alphabetical. They aren't numerical behind the scenes either, we should point out. So it's not like they know where they are ranked and they're just not telling us. They're flat out, yes, they'll be ranked, but then they'll shift them in alphabetical and that's it. When they go look at them in week 2, there won't be a numerical ranking to compare them to. We would love to see the mock rankings, and that's what we also talked on the marathon, turning the mock rankings into numerical rankings. Or I'm sorry, use the mock rankings for the results versus regionally ranked. So send out the mock rankings, the practice rankings as alphabetical. Then week 1, you've got results versus regionally ranked opponents, and now you can show the full data like it normally should be. So we won't have, I hate to use the word legitimate, but we won't have full rankings like we never do until week 2, because week 2, even in the past, was the first one we had all the data points. So just a heads up. Regional rankings for men Tuesday, regional rankings for women Wednesday. Both will be alphabetical. And we should point out also, this may only be a one-year thing where it's alphabetical. It's a trial balloon. Alphabetical rankings. And they won't include results versus regionally ranked opponents. We got to wait another week for that. And that's when we'll get numerical and that data and everything else in between. Everybody got it? Makes sense? Anybody confused? No? Wonderful. Just saw this before the show started. We got a couple of coaches' information to get to. Give me a moment. We'll get to that. There's some announcements from over the weekend and today. So good to see. I just spotted it in our chat session. Anyway, so that's that. Again, Thursday's show we'll probably just put on the back burner. And then Monday's show, one idea I might do next Monday, we're going to be back in the evening. Maybe we just do a super show, kind of make up for some lost time. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge. Don't want to not cover regions. What regions? Yeah, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, as much as we cover the rest. So maybe we'll do a super show on Monday, just a little longer than usual, and get in a couple extra guests to get that all covered. So anyway, there you go. Lots to cover there. Let's see what else we got business wise. Saw our first, I guess, ousting of a coach over the weekend. We've had a couple of announcements of retirements over the weekend. Not of the weekend, over the season so far, including one we'll talk about here in a moment. But the first one I've seen that's a true ousting, Matt Airy is out at Aurora. I don't know a lot about it, at least on the record. Kind of surprised myself. He was coaching on Thursday and suddenly wasn't coaching Saturdays when I noticed it. Watching video. I was checking in on Wisconsin Lutheran, kind of curious what they had. I had a random Saturday off. They're leading the NACC, and I figured I'd dip in to check that out while bouncing around to some other games, and Matt wasn't on the sideline. We checked to see if he had coached the previous game, and he had. We checked that video, and then we went to the coach's page just to see if he was still there, because if he was or wasn't going to decide my next move, and he wasn't there. And an interim coach had been named, Coach Taylor. So Mount Airy's out at Aurora. He was in his 3rd year at Aurora. Remember, he was a longtime assistant and associate head coach under Eric Bridgeland at Whitman, where Matt is an alum. Not sure what the plan is. I'm not sure what Aurora is trying to accomplish. We'll see what happens. Granted, Aurora only had 4 wins this season, but usually that's an end of season thing. It's not common in D3 to see those kinds of decisions mid-season. We don't have a full answer on it, but we'll keep an eye out and see what's going on. Also, we just announced today, Mark Hansen's retirement at Gustavus Adolphus. Remember, he's a graduate of Gustavus Adolphus. He will retire at the end of the basketball season. He's been there for 30 some odd years, according to the press release. I guess he took over as assistant in 1986. Now, obviously, the rest is history. Let's see. Winningest coach in Gustavus basketball history, 529 wins, 315 losses. He's got 403 wins in the MIAC entering Monday's matchup against Augsburg. 7th winningest coach in the NCAA Division III, ranks 45th all-time in Division III as well. So congratulations to Mark on his retirement. We'll miss him. Good coach, good man. Enjoy our chats with him often, and glad to see he's up and running, or he's decided to retire. I mean, hats off to him, honestly. By the way, should point out, we're rolling. I love the hashtag, but the last one is missing an H. I'll admit, I kind of rushed on the Facebook stream. I'm not sure what I posted there, Phil. Maybe it's right. I don't know. I just don't know. Great question. Let me see here. I don't think I had a hashtag on there. Anyway, we're up and running there. We're also up and running on YouTube if you feel like joining us there. Of course, on Blue Frame Technology as well. If you want to email us, you can email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com. You can also, the board behind me. I'll get it to you guys. Oh, yeah, bear with me. Now I see what everybody's talking about. No, I know. I know what's missing. I'll talk about that in a minute. So guests we have today coming up here shortly. Really got to get going. UMass-Dartmouth head coach Brian Baptiste is on the show. Later in the show, we'll talk to Christopher Newport's John Krikorian. Dixie Jeffers is coming on. Last minute guest with Dixie. She's a former head coach at Capital and former interim AD. Dixie's going to come on and talk about her retirement. She retired mid-season this year. We'll talk to her coming up, friend of the program. Mandy King of Kean will join us out of the NJAC. And then Olivia Lett will join us out of Millikin women's basketball as well. Oh, so some of you have noticed the new boards. I got these recently, finally got them up and running. I'm going to play with them and see what we like doing. You'll notice the one over my left shoulder, if you're watching the video, I'm pointing to it, has our guests, doesn't have Dixie on there because literally booked her in the last hour. But it has our guest names on there, so you can see the schools we're going to be chatting with. The one on my right shoulder that's on the desk, it says D3 Hoopsville, hashtag Hoopsville, hashtag D3 Hoops. The top one's the Twitter account. There's not enough space to put the @ in. We are squeezing those letters in hardcore, and there just isn't enough room. Maybe we tape it. I don't know, but then it would look weird. So the hashtag Hoopsville, hashtag D3 Hoops, the Twitter account, Instagram account, @D3 Hoopsville. I can only squeeze so much in. We'll see if that's how we keep it. We're going to play around with it, see if we can have some fun with it. Maybe you put in little funny sayings here and there. We can change colors on them, by the way. See? I tried to put up kind of an orange one, but I'm not sure if I got the right color. I'm a little bit colorblind, so it didn't work the way I wanted to. But, we can change colors. So anyway, that's what that is. It's a little fun. All right, we got to take a break. We got to get Zoom up and running. Got to get to our first guest on the air. It'll be Brian Baptiste joining us to talk about UMass-Dartmouth men's basketball. Having a tremendous season and certainly looking good. We'll talk to him about all of that, what it means to the program, how he feels things are going as well. Certainly it'll be a fun conversation. I'm looking forward to that. If you've got questions for our guests or whomever, please don't hesitate to reach out via the information scrolling at the bottom of the screen or any other way you know how to get a hold of us. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com for the NABC studios. Thanks to our partners at the WBCA and, of course, Blue Frame Technology. We will be back with more on Hoopsville after this.
Why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville at d3sports.com. You can also join us. We're on Instagram at D3Hoopsville, though admittedly today we didn't do a very good job of promoting the show on Instagram, mainly because I had to make that unexpected trip to Annapolis that carved up my entire morning. We'll get better at that, but I apologize. Of course, we're on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. We're live simulcasting the show today. Phil's certainly active there. There you go, bud. It doesn't say, oh, I see. I am missing an H down there. I'll be darned. How'd that happen? Well, I'm going to have to fix that. Thanks for noticing that, Phil. Apparently nobody else in the house proofread that, so we'll fix that later. Anyway, lots of ways to get a hold of us. Hope you're enjoying it, and thanks for tuning in. All right, so let's talk. Again, we break down the regions on Mondays. We tend to talk Region 1 and 2 combined, then Region 4, 6, and 8. It's really the old New England, Atlantic, South, and Central regions. And if you're watching up in New England, you all know the answer to this. One of the teams that's kind of caught everybody's attention is UMass-Dartmouth, having an absolutely tremendous season of the Corsairs. 18-2 overall, 10-1 in men's basketball in the Little East. Two of their losses came in a 3-day stretch back at the end of November, beginning of December. And of course, they got a lot of attention with their win over Wesleyan, 104-94. Yeah, you're probably thinking it's about darn time we get to the coach and talk to him about all this. You're right. We've waited a little too long to talk to the Corsairs. Joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline, it is the aforementioned Corsairs and head coach Brian Baptiste. Coach, first and foremost, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it, and tremendous season so far.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, and yeah, the guys are playing really well, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I am sure it is fun. Watching your games has been fun. I've tuned in a few times and gotten a kick out of it. You guys, you seem, I don't want to say carefree, but you seem relaxed. Like the game doesn't seem too stressful for you.
Well, I think that's a tribute to the senior leadership we have on the team. The guys have been around a little bit, and we have some very, very good players that are pretty calm and collected. So it really makes a difference in wins and losses on a season when you have kids like that.
Yeah, we'll get to the individual talent, that's for sure, in a moment. Again, you last season got a chance to play. You guys were the champs last season, so you had something to build off of. But how much going into the season did you know you were going to have back and not have back? Were there still some question marks on whether all this talent was going to be able to congeal again for this season?
For this season, no. We were pretty set from last year who was coming back and who wasn't. So I had a good idea.
Well, that's definitely makes it a little bit easier. The talent is phenomenal. We can talk about the roster here in a moment. It's certainly got a lot of leadership, as you pointed out. But you tend to be a little more guard heavy, which I don't think is all that surprising in the game these days. But you tend to be a little bit more guard heavy with some great inside presence as well. Are you more relying on the guards to do well to free up the inside? Are you more hoping the inside can at least distract so that the guards can have free will?
Well, all year long, I've been stressing for the guards to look more inside. When we can get the ball inside more, we go to the free throw line more, we get easy baskets underneath. Those are all things that, I'm sure coaches are always looking for. I stress that, and it didn't happen till, I don't know, maybe mid-January that we started really being more effective in doing that. So I think that the biggest reason for our success is the kids have really bought into the defensive end, and we're doing a lot of things defensively to try to be successful. We're primarily a man-to-man team, spend a lot of time on it. And I think the maturity of the group is a big factor in why we're winning.
And I say guard heavy. You look at the roster online, you've got 3 players listed as a forward or center. The rest are guards. Nobody's shorter than 6 foot at least listed. So you've got some decent size. You just don't have a ton of inside pressure or presence. I'm sorry. Does that put on pressure, though, on your guards to try and play well? Or is it because defensively you've got a little bit extra movement maybe with all those guards that's your first and only concern? Let's just get stops and we'll worry about offense later.
We worry about getting the stops first and the offense later. But I start 3 guards and pretty much play the game with 3 guards and a 6'6" and a 6'5", 6'6" kid. And one of the 6'6" kids is a guard. But, he's tall and he has a lot of skills. So it makes for a fun team.
So really you're starting 4 guards.
Yeah. It's just one of them 6'6".
Listen, I've seen stranger setups. I've seen all guard starting lineups these days. There's such a hybrid to the sport. I mean, I know at D3 Hoops, we try and stick to the 3 guard, 2 forward / center look when we do all region and all America teams. So sometimes we'll fudge it and go with 4 guards. But to some degree, that a lot of that has changed. Is it changed because recruiting has kind of forced your hand to go more guard heavy because you've gotten guard look? Or is it because the style of play you want to play requires you to have maybe more guards than inside presence, and that's just the direction it went?
Well, that's the way it turns out. I still like to have bigs and have quality bigs, but it seems like it's harder and harder to get. And I will adjust my play to the talent that we have, but it always seems to be that we're heavy in the guard rotation and a little bit slim on the bigs that are quality bigs. So that's the way it ends up.
You're led by, you have 4 players in double figures with one more who could easily be there. You're led by Marcus Azor, who scored his 1,000th point earlier this season. He's scoring nearly 18 points a game, pulling down nearly 10 rebounds a game. He's also by far the leader in the clubhouse in assists at about 4.5 per game with 167 total. Plus, he's the leader in steals. Shoots 46% from the floor. He doesn't shoot often from outside, but he'll hit 32%, 75% free throw shooter. And he, by the way, leads the team with 30 blocks. Is there anything he doesn't do for this team? Will he not buy lunch? Will he not go and do errands? Anything he won't do?
No, he fills the stat sheet up. He's one of those kids. He's got exceptional athleticism. He basically gets to the rim quite often. He's only 6 foot 1.5. He can stand up and dunk the basketball with 2 hands going straight up. He's a crazy athlete, and he has a lot of skills, and he does a good job of controlling those skills offensively and defensively. He does a great job on that end of the court for us, which ends up producing our offense. And also, he's our leading rebounder because of his explosiveness from a standstill position. A lot of guys can't do that.
You talk about his dunking. Of course, there was a highlight sent out this weekend of his dunking prowess. And it's funny you say 6'1", 1.5. Yeah, you're right. Once he jumps, he doesn't seem that. He seems like he's a 6'4", 6'6" guy who's just jumping out of the building. He's skying over everybody. That weapon offensively and defensively has got to be a huge advantage to kind of give everybody else a little bit of, not a break, but it doesn't put a lot of pressure on everybody else if you got a guy like him on the floor.
Well, I'm always encouraging everybody to hit the offensive glass, to make sure you block out, just gain an advantage and get the rebound because we're not big. And it's been successful for us. The guys are buying into it, and they're doing a pretty good job.
He's not the only one, obviously, that does well. He just, as you said, fills the stat sheet. You got 3 other guys in double figures. Adam Seablum at 14.5 points a game. He's closing in on 1,000 points himself. You've got Jake Ashworth at 14 points a game. He's he may have gone, I think he's gone past 1,500 or he's about to go past 1,500. I've lost track.
He's about to get 1,500.
Okay. That would make him the 15th person in program history to do that. You got Jackson Zancan, 11.5 points a game. And we shouldn't forget Sean Lee. He's at 8.6 points a game. I mean, that's a lot of weapons that in case either Azor is having an off night or he's getting really well guarded or the defense is kind of getting lazy, you got other guys that are going to step up.
That's helped us a great deal. When one guy is not shooting the ball or scoring the ball well, somebody else is there to pick it up. And we do have a lot of weapons. So all the years I've been coaching, my best teams have always been pretty well balanced, in the scoring department. And that, when you're scoring in basketball, if you make a couple of mistakes, and you always do on the defensive end, when the ball goes in the hoop, it makes up for a lot of mistakes.
So I mentioned three guys, Seablum, Ashworth, and Azor, all with 1,000 plus, either about to get or have gotten. You also have Santos, who's got 1,000 points earlier this season, though 800 of them came in 2 years previous at a community college. But still, it points out to some of the scoring you can have at any given time on the floor. So those are those guys. Who are the others that we don't get to necessarily spot? Maybe the stats aren't showing their complete contributions to the team, or it just doesn't jump off the table.
You're right about JC Santos. He can come in and spark us and score 20 points a night off the bench, and he's a really good player. And the other kids, you got Isaac Percy. He's a 6'3", 6'4", guard skill, can do a pretty good job of doing a lot of different things. And he's a really good three-point shooter. And he had a little bit of a late start this year. He had a bad ankle injury that kind of set him back a little bit. He actually started for us last year. And this year he's been coming on strong as the season goes. We use John Martins off the bench. John is he's a guy about 6'2" who can guard anybody. I can put him on the toughest guy on the other team, up to about 6'5". And John will do a good job of guarding a quick point guard or guarding a 6'5" guy who likes to play inside, outside. So those are huge contributions to our team.
You look back at the season, again, 2 losses coming in a span of 3 games. Prior to the first loss, you had wins over like MIT and Tufts and some others, but you lost to Brandeis around Thanksgiving by 8. Of course, Brandeis showing that they're a pretty good team this year. You then lost around exam period to Eastern Connecticut, and really what was about the only game you played in 6 weeks. Lost by 2 on the road at Eastern. What was that stretch like? Was it just distraction central?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, Dave.
What was that stretch like of those 3 games? Was it just full of distractions and tough to keep everybody kind of on board?
Yeah, I don't think we were playing as well as we could play at that time, but don't take anything away from Eastern Connecticut and Brandeis. Those teams are quality teams, both of them. And I think that in the Brandeis game, they were bigger, stronger, bulkier than we were. And I have a new guy this year, Mike Urquhart, who just joined us as a new player. And as the season's gone on, he just got better and better. And I remember in that game, he got 3 fouls in about 3 minutes. And he's our biggest guy, but he comes off the bench because Jackson's just a better all-around rounded skilled player. And we got ourselves in a little bit of foul trouble, and that hurt us a little bit. So that stretch was a tough stretch. It really was. I don't know if it was more time constraints or just the way the game went that made it difficult for us.
Fast forward, obviously not lost a game since. That's why you've only got 2 losses on the season, but you caught everybody's attention January 22nd against Wesley, and you got them at home, and you beat them 104-94. First off, high-scoring affair, especially against Wesleyan. Second off, a big win over a team everybody's got their eye on this season. And while you guys were certainly getting some attention playing well leading up to that, it seemed like that might have been the coming out party this season. What was it about Wesleyan you guys were able to take advantage of and get the victory there?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Dave. I'm watching it from the sidelines, and you see Wesleyan on tape. Hadn't seen them, in person in a few years, and their size was tremendous. I mean, they looked like a Division I basketball team. But honestly, I mean, it was a great game. Could have went either way. I just felt personally that my guards were more skilled than their guards. And I thought that we were able to take advantage a little bit of our quickness and our guard skill play. And that was able to offset their size advantage that they had on us.
3 of your next 5 games will be at home. You obviously are in control of the LEC right now. You've got technically a 2-game lead on Kean State, who's played 2 more games than you, but lost 2 more. And so far about 2.5, 3 games ahead of Eastern Connecticut, though they've got 1 on you so far. I think you got that one back. You did on the 26th, 71-67. How important is it to stay at home and get everybody to come through you guys in the Little East to especially try and punch your ticket to the NCAAs?
Well, I think home court advantage is huge. So if we do our duty from here to the end of the year, we should get home court advantage in the Little East Conference. And I think that makes a big difference to any team.
I haven't even looked that far down the road to try and figure out, are you bubble or you're not bubble in terms of at large. I'm assuming the message in the locker room and in the offices and everything is, we just need to go out there and punch our own ticket. Go win the LEC. We don't want to be playing this at large game.
Well, I don't even take it that far, Dave. I take one game at a time. It's like, this is who we got to concentrate on. You've heard that 1,000 times, but it's the God's honest truth.
Sure.
This team coming up, this is who we're focusing on. I know the guys are thinking about the NCAA tournament. I'm thinking about the NCAA tournament, but I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about, let's take care of our business.
Well, certainly didn't want to talk necessarily about the tournament, but just trying to make sure you guys are in the best advantageous position. Obviously, Kean State ahead of you. You beat them by 16. They're the ones sitting in 3rd place in the conference. That certainly needs to be the priority. You slip up once or twice here, you don't get home court advantage, and you probably put yourself in a tough spot to try and punch a ticket the hard way. So how do you get the guys focused on that? How do you focus on just Kean State? How do you focus on just understanding we need to be at home for the LEC to make sure that we control everything we can control?
Well, I think it's what the coaches transfer to the players. And I believe that this team is really bought in to what we're telling them. So if we're telling them, hey guys, you have to concentrate, you have to do your best job at playing in this game right now and block everything out, everything will fall into place. So make sure you come and work hard in practice, and make sure you come and you're ready to play in the game. And that's basic stuff, but that's basically it.
What's this season been like? We look back to 2018-19, you were 19-8. Prior to that, a couple 17-win seasons, a 16-win season. You got to go back to 2009 to find the last 20-win season, which is seemingly likely to happen this year. What's this season been like from your perspective on the sideline, watching it all play out?
It's been exciting. It's been exciting to watch these kids play, and they surprise me at times when we're playing and we're in a tough game. Actually, it wasn't the main game. It might have been our last home game. One of the officials, as he's running by, and he's saying, I tell you, you got a really mature, smart basketball team here. I kind of just looked at him as he ran down the court. Didn't say anything, but yeah, you're right, we do. They are mature and they make good decisions. And for me, it makes a big difference. It makes practice a lot better. And when you're winning basketball games, it just makes everything a little bit more exciting.
Well, Coach, I'd love to talk more about everything. And you're in your 39th season. I can't only imagine what kind of basketball you've seen over the years. So that will probably be my last question. How much has the game changed, evolved? How much have you changed and evolved in the 39 seasons of basketball that you've been able to kind of watch in front of you?
Well, the biggest change, Dave, has been the three-point line. I mean, when I started, the three-point line wasn't in existence. Then it came in existence, and I was like, see, I'm not so sure I want guys taking a step back to take a shot, but, after you do all the analytics and the statistics, it's really worth it. So I think I've developed in that respect to embrace the changes in the game and try to figure out what works for us and what doesn't, because we're a little bit smaller than some other teams. When we are, I think that we really take advantage of that three-point shot. As far as my personality is concerned with the guys, I've always been a disciplinary type guy, very organized, very strict about how we're going to go about our business. And I think over the years, that's lessened a bit, more apt to talk to the kids and say, hey, what do you think about this and that? And go along with some of their suggestions. But that's not to say, I remember early on in my years, I would have a guard and I'd be teaching, how to play defense and how to, deny and how to open. And then one guard, really quick, he came up to me, says, "Coach, I can do it a lot better if I just lose sight of the man and turn and do it this way." And I said, "You know what, Robert, you do it that way because you're right. You are very good at that." So, the kids are the best part of this game. I mean, just being with them and coaching them and interacting with them is a whole lot of fun for me.
That's cool. I appreciate it. That's a fun little story. Forgive the dog barking in the background, Puppy, who doesn't know that he can't be loud now, but he's our mascot and we deal what we can deal with. Actually, it looks like he's getting let out. Very good. Coach, appreciate the time.
Myself, so no problem.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the time. As always, thanks for that. And as always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
Well, I was going to ask you a question, Dave. The hoop, d3hoop.com, the poll that comes out, and you do that. Who are the guys that I don't mean specifically, but I see that it's a bunch of coaches and SIDs and things of that nature. Am I right?
Yeah, it's SIDs, it's coaches, it's individuals like myself spread out around the country. Oh, I know where you're going. No, trust me. It's funny because you're one of those teams I've got. I think the real issue is there's so much parity. It's hard to fit everybody in. I've got 40 teams I'm looking at in a general week, and I'm trying to shoehorn them into 25 slots, and I'm not sure I'm right all the time. I've got you temporarily on my top 25, and I say temporarily only because I haven't finalized it. I don't know what everybody will finish when I finally send it in to Pat today. But trust me, that Wesleyan game raised everybody's eyebrows. I don't know. It is tough. And gauging everybody. And that's why I get coaches like you on the show. I want to learn more about your program so I can have a better understanding when I vote.
Right. Well, I've in the past years, I've been on those committees for the NCAA that picks the teams in the region. I've been the chair of that. So I know how it all works out. But in those situations, we have certain criteria. I was just wondering if you guys use the win-loss percentage, use the strength of schedule percentage.
Whatever a voter feels needs to be their metrics for their decisions. There aren't any specific ones. If a vote seems out of place because either we screwed it up and we meant to grab somebody else and we grabbed the wrong school, or it doesn't seem right, it'll be asked. There'll be a gentle question to double check somebody's thinking. Pat did that to me earlier this year. He wanted to make sure I had the team I had in a certain spot was the team I meant to have in that spot, and it was. But, there'll be those questions if necessary. Otherwise, usually the track record speaks for itself. And if a voter's wrong, they usually correct it themselves. I agree with you. I'm curious why you guys aren't in there, but I think it's just that there are so many teams trying to fit in there. It is tougher and tougher, especially this year with the parity plus the pandemic's impact. Trying to understand teams and who's the top 25 best in Division III is gotten more difficult in the years I've been doing it than it's gotten easier.
Oh yeah, I can believe that.
Hey, Coach, appreciate the time. I have a feeling you might sneak into that top 25 sometime soon. Just a gut feeling. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know all the voters, but we'll see how it plays out. Take care. Enjoy the rest of the season. We'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
Thanks, Dave. Nice talking to you too.
Great. Thanks. Brian Baptiste. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate that. Kind words. Appreciate the time Coach gave us there. I think, listen, top 25, I think, is a legit argument for these guys. The back-to-back wins over Southern Maine this weekend certainly helps, especially the way they beat them. 18-2 again, overall, 10-1 in conference play. We'll keep an eye on the Corsairs. We'll take another break. When we come back, we talk Christopher Newport basketball. You're listening to Hoopsville, brought to you by D3Hoops.com from the NABC studios. More after this.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us. All of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. competing at a Division III level. It created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
There are over 480,000 college athletes. Only 2% would go pro. That means over 470,000 will not get a shoe contract. No autographs, no private jets, no fan clubs, no Hall of Fame inductions. Instead, they will walk away with something much more valuable.
Welcome back to Hoopsville. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville, hashtag Hoopsville. You can also tweet us, or you can Facebook message us, or join us on Facebook, something like that. Facebook.com/Hoopsville. And we're live simulcasting the show on Hoopsville and on YouTube, YouTube.com/Hoopsville. All right, so we go from a team who's not in the top 25 to a team who is in the top 25, ran rather handily, because, well, they're... I just noticed my thing's off here. We'll fix it. They're number 4 in the conference. Christopher Newport playing some darn good basketball, obviously, moving up in the rankings and positioned pretty nicely, if we do say so myself. But also in a quirky situation when you look at the conference play that they've got to deal with and so many other things. So joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline, it's the head coach of the captains of Christopher Newport. On the men's side, it's John Krikorian. We talked women a couple while back. Now finally getting to your office, Coach. Good to see you. How are you?
Hey, great, Dave. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, it is so cool to be, to have the women here at CNU and the men having such good seasons.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll talk about the entirety of things at CNU a bit in a moment, but let's talk about the season. I'll admit, and I think I said this at the beginning of the show, I didn't know what to think of you guys coming in to the season. You and I talked last year. I knew what your purpose was last year if there was no postseason. You wanted to just get guys games. You wanted to try some new things out. So I kind of looked at your games with kind of a shrug, like, I don't know what they're really doing, not doing, how good they really are. I don't know what to take from last year to put into this year. It's kind of a jumble to me. And granted, you weren't the only ones. You guys came out, played well, played against really good teams. You've risen in the top 25 quickly. Was this what you expected? The consistency the program's had, was that expected for this year?
Yeah, I can't say that it was, to be honest. I mean, we had, to go back to 1920, we had 6 seniors on that team, right, that, all came together at the right time, and we were due to host a Sweet 16 game. And I mean, that was the culmination of a lot of hard work and a lot of seasons and a lot of, and then it was gone. Right. And that was tough. And so now we were in a little bit of a rebuilding mode, replacing those guys. And then last year was the COVID year, which, as you said, we didn't play any true games, some exhibitions. We tried to give some of the guys some experiences. We had some new guys. And we were really trying to just set the groundwork. And my staff did a great job continuing to recruit. And so we came into this year with a schedule that I thought was a behemoth. And we've always scheduled tough here. But as we looked at it, we knew this is going to be a monster here. And if we are able to play well, and if these guys are able to rise to the challenge, we'll be a really good team. And they've done that. And I couldn't be more proud of them. Some newcomers, and obviously some guys that have been there before in Final Four, so they have some experience.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a behemoth of a schedule in a lot of different ways. First off, 19-2 overall. You guys went and played at Roanoke College, and so you faced off against Marietta early on in that. But you already played Johns Hopkins the game before that. You've dipped into the ODAC quite a bit, and we'll talk about the quirks on why you've had to do that. So you've had a lot of really good, challenging games in a schedule that in the second half has been constantly moving on top of that. Obviously, with a change into the C2C, what was the CAC, and scheduling with all that, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you had to get a little bit creative at the beginning of the season. Did you intend to go out and get as tough a schedule as you did, or did some of that just kind of fall into place?
Yeah, probably a little bit of both. I mean, since the day I got here, it was, if we want to be the best, we got to play the best. And we're fortunate to be in a region where there's a lot of good teams to play within driving distance. I mean, we have natural rivals with Virginia Wesleyan, Randolph-Macon,
right.
Lynchburg, Mary Washington, so these are great. Hopkins and us have developed a little natural rivalry here. Like there's so many really good games in our area that we can play. And that helps us tremendously. So we would have played all those games anyway. But then to go to Roanoke and be able to play Marietta, that's a little bonus. And then in the second game, we would have liked to beat Marietta, but we play an Eastern team who has turned out to have a terrific season.
Yeah.
And it's a marquee win for us at this point. So, and similar with games like Alvernia that we played here, we've played some really good teams that have gone on and had really good seasons in their respective conferences. And, the challenge for us is how front loaded and how many games we had to play back to back to back in short rest. But the benefit is the opportunity we have now to kind of get a little rest, to tighten some things up and to get ready for this final stretch.
Yeah, the difference between the two schedules is incredible. Obviously, in November, you slammed them in. You played, 7 games in a span of, doing quick math, 23 days. You then played a bunch of games in December, a whole mess of games. Another 9 games in December before the new year. Threw in a couple more at the beginning of January, and really until January 8th, you played another whole mess of games. And then you kind of got some time, as you said. This is where the quirk of the C2C comes into play, and somewhat of the pandemic, because you've had a bunch of games that you've had scheduled that you've lost. And if anything, you've turned into a travel secretary in terms of trying to figure out who you can play, where you can play, when you can play, who might be interested in playing. Can that game still happen? What's changed? What hasn't changed? To some degree, since maybe mid-December, the schedule's been all over the place.
Yeah, well, in all honesty, the way that our schedule was front loaded was a real benefit this particular year, because most of the games that were canceled with Omicron happened, more towards the end of December, when the majority of our schedule was already complete. So we lost our game at York. We lost our game at Catholic. We were able to pick up a game with TCNJ. So we'll only be down 1 game. And, it really hasn't been, this little stretch of break we had in December was actually scheduled that way already. And it happened to be the time when most people were canceling games. So that's definitely luck of the draw. We were able to play all those tough games and not lose some games that really, really helped us out. Had we had to lose a Macon game or a Lynchburg game or a Virginia Wesleyan game or a Hamden-Sydney game, our resume might not be as strong, but we were able to play all of those games, and they've all made us so much better to play programs like that.
Obviously, this C2C is a bit of a quirk. It feels like I'm looking at a schedule that's a hybrid of Thomas More, especially the women's side, when they were independent before leaving Division III, where they had to just go and play anywhere to find games and to bolster their resume because they had no conference, but they wanted to be on a national level with a little bit of a conference play. I mean, you still have Salisbury and Mary Washington nearby who are conference mates, but you guys are willing to head out to California. I feel horrible for you to go to Santa Cruz. The view there, I heard, is horrific. If anyone doesn't sense the sarcasm there, it's dripping. You went out there to play some games. The women went out to Central Illinois the other day, played Wheaton, for example. You guys have had to get a little bit creative. I get the reasons, and we'll talk about the C2C in more detail in a minute, but this can't be the future, that you guys are doing this on a yearly basis, right?
Dave, those decisions, the conference that we're in, I have no control over that. I do think that as their challenges that you mentioned, I don't know what other kids are getting to get on a plane and go to Santa Cruz, California, and play in the Warriors G League arena on back-to-back nights against a quality opponent. And I don't know if I'd trade it right now, to be honest with you.
Sure.
I don't know where it's going to go. But Mary Washington and Salisbury are quality opponents.
Yeah.
Our strength of schedule is better than average to be, completely honest. And then we're in a region where we're able to play as many tough games as we need. So yeah, I don't know. I look at, give me the parameters. This is what I'm to deal with. All right, how do we get it done? And we know what we need to do. And I think we've put a schedule together, and a lot of credit goes to my longtime assistant, Roland Ross, who he works the phones, he gets it done. We fill tournaments here. We go to tournaments that we think will help us. And he's working the phones all day, every day, and scheduling here is very, very important. But I think we've given ourselves an opportunity where we can play a strong schedule, but we can also give our kids an unbelievable life experience.
Sure.
And that's pretty cool. I think these guys are going to remember, touching their toes in the water, or in some of their cases, diving into the water on the beach in Santa Cruz, more than they might remember some of the other things that take place this year. So I love to be able to give these kids those types of opportunities, and to be able to do it while playing competitive schedule. I mean, yeah, I don't know, from the outside looking in, it might seem quirky and strange, and but I think a lot of credit has to go to our presidents and athletic directors who have found a way to make it happen so that our kids can have a really quality experience.
I don't have the SOS numbers in front of me. I went looking for them there just now. I just realized I don't have them. Oh, I know how to get them. I'm not using my head. But one quirk is usually we talk a lot about in a conference play, double round robin, and your SOS is going to get pulled a little bit closer to 500 as a result of that. To some degree, you guys don't have to worry about that because you're not necessarily playing an entire beast of a conference. And so you not only front-loaded your schedule, you got into good conferences. You played teams like Marietta. You played into the ODAC. You're bolstering your resume without the pull towards 500. To some degree, you really are securing yourself a pretty good situation, considering, oh, by the way, you only got a few losses here. You got to feel pretty comfortable going into this point of the season.
Well, following this thing for 15 years, it does take a few years to figure out how these SOS numbers work. And you've been doing it forever, but that the leagues that play fewer conference games, you guys talk about it every year. If you're willing to schedule up, you have an opportunity. Obviously, if you win enough games, you give yourself a really good opportunity to play in the postseason. And when you have 18 or 20 conference games, as we did one year in the CAC, my first year, well, you're right. You're almost naturally going to be very close to 500. And so that was challenging in its own way. So, again, I think here's the parameters now. How do we get our highest SOS possible while maintaining, some balance for our team with home games and, just balance, experience. And how do we do that? And I think we've done it. And you're absolutely right. It's provided some opportunity for us to go out and play as competitive a schedule as we can. And I would anticipate us doing that in, at least for the next several years to come.
You're on a 16 game winning streak, looking to make your sixth straight NCAA tournament. You got this quirk coming up. You're playing a double round robin, essentially, with Salisbury and Mary Washington, your best buds nearby in the C2C. Whether that counts in the conference, I don't know, because you'll then have a conference tournament coming up on February 24th and 26th, which admittedly, 4 weeks ago, probably didn't look like it might happen. Now at least looks like it can happen. A lot's been in the air, but to some degree, a lot of it you can't control. How do you keep just focused on the task at hand?
Yeah, I mean, that's easy. And Coach Baptiste talked about it, and every coach will. I mean, we wake up in the morning as coaches and at this point in the year, and we are laser focused on how is our team getting ready for the next challenge in front of us. That's it. That's what we do. And for us, it's Mary Washington on Wednesday. We've had tremendous rivalry with Marcus Kahn and Mary Washington. He's a close friend. I love him, and he's going to come in here and try to whoop us, and we're going to do the same. And no matter what, we're going to make each other better. And our kids are going to love the experience. They're all mostly in-state kids.
Yeah.
A lot of them played against each other. A lot of them are close friends. So name the conference whatever you want. Wednesday night is going to be a blast here at the Freeman Center. High energy, lots of fans, band playing, cheerleaders. And I know these two teams are going to play their hearts out.
Yeah.
And that'll be the type of experience that helps both of us get ready moving forward.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about this team. John Hines leads the team, 14.5 points a game, 7 rebounds a game. Jason Agner? I never say his name right.
Agner.
It is Agner. Okay. I apologize, Jason. 13 points a game. Doesn't have a lot of rebounds, but man, shoots real well, especially from beyond the arc. Trey Barber, 12 points a game, 8 rebounds a game. And I want to quickly mention Ty Henderson and Darian Peterson. Both could be in double figures as well. Peterson pulls in 7.5 rebounds, which is second highest on the team. And everybody distributes the ball. When I look at the statistical numbers, Ty Henderson has the most, but it's quickly followed by Hines, and there's several other guys with a lot of points as well. This team seems like a team that's clicked well with each other, distributes the ball well with each other, and doesn't really care about who's going to be the star that night.
That's 100%. And we talk often about how, we value that. When I look at a team, and we don't spend a lot of time on statistics, but assist turnover ratio, I think is something that every player can gauge in terms of how they are doing individually and maybe how a team looks. And I've been this team, as much as any that I've coached, if you look up and down that roster, they share the ball and they take care of the ball. Almost every single one of those guys has a positive assist turnover ratio, where I think we're sharing the ball extremely well. Nobody cares who gets the credit. We rebound the ball. This team rebounds the ball extremely well. And, if you do those things, I think you give yourself a chance every night.
The other stat that jumps out at me, and I literally had to pull out the calculator to make sure I was doing it right in my head. You guys average 6.6 blocks per game. Barber averages the most at almost, I want to say 3.5 a game. Peterson's got about 1.5 blocks a game. That's a lot of blocks. And I could make a tongue-in-cheek joke about statistics about blocks, but usually when the number gets up at a certain point, it's because there's something going on. What's happening there that you guys are getting so successful at blocking shots? Because that can change another team's offense completely.
Yeah, if you've not seen us play a lot, you wouldn't know. But if you have, you'd see we have a really deep interior. We have the deepest, most athletic, hard playing interior that we've ever had here, and they go after the ball. And like Trey Barber is elite. He's got a great knack for blocking shots. Darian Peterson does as well. And then we have a whole bunch of other guys that are in there battling as well. Ian Anderson, John Hines. These guys make it very, very difficult on opposing teams when they break the 3-point line and try to go to the basket. And oftentimes what's great about it, a lot of those blocks are not being blocked out of bounds, but they're leading to transition opportunities for us. So we are, number one in the country in block shots. I knew we'd be good at it. But we have become elite, and these guys take pride in it. And I think it's really become part of our identity.
Yeah, no, it's significant, to say the least. We want to ask, we had a little fun with the women's coach on this, your cohort, when we had him on. Of course, I got to call the women's soccer championship, CNU punching its first national title in a team sport. Kind of breaking through finally for what it seems CNU's been on the verge of doing in a lot of sports. Has that put any pressure on you guys, both men and women, Broderick and yourself, to now do what women's soccer has pulled off, and B, a little friendly wager between the two of you on who's going to do it first?
Hey, I am so happy for our women's soccer team and Jamie Gunderson, and it was so cool. We've always had a close relationship with our women's soccer team. for whatever reason, our teams have bonded well. But yeah, coaching at CNU absolutely comes with that kind of pressure. Playing a sport at CNU comes with that kind of pressure. You walk around campus, whether it's the women's soccer team, the men's soccer team, the lacrosse team, the women's basketball team, and there's a level of excellence that the coaches and the players we support each other. We go to each other's games, but there's also a little, hey, if you don't get there first, we're going to get there, and so this is the year that, now that Jamie kicked the door open, I think everyone's like, well, shoot, it can happen here. And that's, I think, pretty exciting. So there should be no shortage of belief in any of our programs now at this point.
By the way, Jamie kicked it in, technically in his first season? I mean, he had the COVID year, but I mean, just saying, you and Broderick have had a little more experience. What's taking so long?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I'll look forward to Jamie calling me in like 5 years saying, how come I haven't won it every year since,
Yeah, that might happen. That could happen.
Or maybe he will. And the joke's on me, but he made the most of a great opportunity. I'm sure he'll continue to do so. But yeah, this stuff is hard. People talk about, hey, where could you go and what could you advance and what can you do? Hey, the first criteria every year is, can you win more games than you lose? If you do that, it's been an incredibly good season.
Yeah.
I learned that from some of the guys I worked for. I had guys I worked for, we got to 13 wins and it was a celebration because you guaranteed to have one more than you lost. Like, that's a big deal. Then it's, hey, can you continue to play in the postseason? That's a gift. You can have one of the, we had a great team our second year in the CAC. We had 20 wins. We were really good. I thought we could have beat anyone in the country. I thought we could have gone to the Final Four, and we didn't even make the tournament.
Yeah.
So, and there's going to be teams out there this year that's the case.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, a couple injuries had them lose a couple games they shouldn't have, or whatever.
COVID.
And it happens all the time, and it's tough. So, man, if we get to keep playing, it's a gift. That's all we're focused on right now is getting ready for Wednesday and try to play as long as we can. And I got a group that really enjoys playing, Dave. I'll tell you what, if you see us and when you see us, these guys love to compete. Like, we'll practice later today. We'll roll the balls out. If we make it competitive at all, it'll be like, we'll have to pull the guys apart from each other. And it's a lot of fun when you come in the gym with that kind of energy.
No, absolutely. No, you can tell watching your games. The guys are definitely gelled. And it's fun to watch. Hey, as I say to a lot of coaches, I could keep talking to you forever, but I got to get going. So I appreciate your time, appreciate the insight on the team. Tell Broderick we said hi. Tell Jamie I said hi. And by the way, he's got to get another forward if he wants to keep winning to replace the stud he had up there. But in the meantime, we always give the coach a final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
Yeah, no, thank you for the platform. Thanks for letting me share about my team and our program and CNU. And more than any this year with these kids, what they've been through with COVID for 2 years, just it's meaningful. And you guys are stepping your game up. I mean, you got more social media tags than I could know what to do with.
We're insane.
Hopefully you can get your spelling corrected on the D3 Hoops board.
It's minor detail.
And, attention to detail matters, Dave. Don't forget that.
I know. And I don't know how that one's not passed. Maybe it's appropriate. D3 Oops.
D3 Oops, it is.
Yeah, it's probably appropriate.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate all you do.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate you as well. Take care of yourself. We'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
Sounds great.
John Krikorian joining us from Christopher Newport. Again, they got a game coming up against Mary Washington in Salisbury at home before playing at Mary Washington. Then the tournament for the C2C will be at Christopher Newport. And teams are expected to be flying in from across the country for that. So we'll keep an eye on that. We're running behind, but we got to get going. Dixie Jeffers is going to join us next. Talk about retiring from basketball in the middle of the season and the challenge it has been the last couple of years. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the NABC studios. More after this.
This is why we love sports. It's in the way they play, free from the pressures and all the money talk. Playing for simply the love of the game, where everyone has a shot at their definition of success on and off the field. This is what we love about sports, and what we can still love about college sports.
It's on us. It's on all of us. And it's time to act now.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division 3. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
We've got more schools than Division 1, more fans than Division 2, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
We've got more schools than Division 1, more fans than Division 2, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, chatting with Dixie Jeffers, our next coach here. She's got a great background. You'll see in a moment. We were chatting about that. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoops or hashtag Hoopsville. Really, it's supposed to be hashtag D3Hoops, but somehow I forgot the H, so it's appropriately D3Oops. But if you want to talk about Division III basketball, it's D3HOOPS. We will get that fixed before the next show, I assure you. I still don't know how that got on there without the H. Though I can tell you, putting those things together is a little bit of a fight, but they look cool. If for those of you listening to the podcast, we got these boards behind us that light up, and it's just new. We're trying to be new. Anyway, you got questions for us, send them our way. You can also email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. Switching gears, talking women's basketball. We're not doing a top 25 today conversation. We're going to save it for a week. But I randomly reached out to a friend of the show, and she agreed to come on, and I was kind of curious about what it's like, essentially, to decide to retire mid-season. We got the surprise on Christmas Eve, as we're all settling in for a nice weekend, that Dixie Jeffers had decided to hang it up. And then I got told what I hadn't realized. She hadn't even coached the last few games. Dixie was already packing her office, apparently. Joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline, Dixie Jeffers joins us, the former Capital interim athletics director and women's basketball coach. First and foremost, Dixie, good to see you. Thanks for taking the time. You look great.
Well, thank you. As always, a matter of fact, you're the first one to reach out to me. And to no surprise, you're always on top of everything. And,
yeah, my family wasn't happy.
I feel great. And it's been a different adjustment, but I'm still adjusting.
I got the news, and I got in touch with a few other people you probably can guess. Like, what is this all about? And, of course, did you know and not tell me? And then finally said, you know what? I got nothing to lose. I'm going to text Dixie. If she doesn't want to talk, she's going to ignore the text. That's fine. To be honest, she's done that before. Lots of people have done that before. You're busy. No problem. So I text. It's Christmas Eve too. Let's just be honest. I'm like, da, 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 da. And I put the phone down because honestly, that was all I was expecting. My watch chirps a moment later and you responded. I was blown away. What led to the decision? Because listen, am I surprised you decided to retire? No. I'm more surprised it happened mid-season. I'm more surprised it kind of felt like it came out of the blue. You and I have been chatting, I think, a few weeks earlier just about general stuff, nothing in particular. What drove you to just finally decide, enough's enough? We're good.
There's a lot of things I think that play into it, and I don't
Sure.
think anybody plans a retirement.
Fair.
And I always wondered, and I always asked people, I said, when will you know? And all my friends that retired before me said, oh, you'll know. So I was questioning things for a while. And I came back from Michigan, and right before Thanksgiving, I couldn't even coach after Thanksgiving because I contracted some other virus, to the point where I couldn't even have Thanksgiving with my family again. And they had to bring nurses into the house and so forth to give me antibiotics and so forth and to take care of me. And I started to question then, what's going on here? And is this all worth it? And doing the athletic director's job, a lot of people cautioned me on continuing to do both jobs a second year. And I kept thinking, no, I'm invincible. I can handle all this and keep going. And to be honest with you, totally exhausted. It became such an exhausting affair to handle everything. And as you well know, people that know me know that I don't do anything lightly, that I go full speed on everything I do. And it just got to the point where I had to step back and think about my health, think about what was right for my family. And my husband had retired at the end of the school year last year. And I'm sitting here going, this just doesn't make sense to me anymore. It makes sense for us. So I did it.
So quickly to recap, it was something that wasn't COVID?
No.
Okay.
They said it was a terribly bad sinus infection, whatever it was. I was very sick. So,
I got bad ones, but I can't imagine ever in a situation that you described. Luckily, they're a bit of my past, but I understand what you mean by sinus infections. But scary enough, and especially when you're getting advice, as you said, from those saying you got to stop both of these. We should point out again, you were interim AD for almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
I got to beg the question, first off, why didn't they pull the interim tag, or did the pandemic just cause enough chaos that they hadn't gotten to it? And secondly, was that a job you wanted to continue on if things, take the health out of it, if things were okay?
I'll tell you what, I am very, very proud of how I reshaped the athletic department in the short time that I had it. Totally believe in the people that I hired and started to reshape in the direction that we were headed. But it really wasn't something that I wanted. I had told my husband that I felt that I had taken the department as far as I could possibly take it. And I was willing to go back downstairs and just finish out the coaching career. And then, like I said, the exhaustion period just hit, and that was it.
Fascinating. No, you and I have talked a lot, especially during the pandemic, with what you were doing in terms of having to manage things. And I remember you describing how one floor was set up one way of the building so that teams could come and go and nobody would interfere. So just to get games in, another floor is another way. And we were talking about the realities of whether the NCAA tournament could happen. I don't want to give too much that it may not want to be shared because it was between you and I, but it fully gave me a better appreciation from an administrative perspective, one that is also usually in the NCAA tournament or even hosting championship weekends, like I know Capital and the greater Columbus area has done. It gave me a better appreciation, first off, that we weren't going to have tournaments. But not that we had that factual, but just understanding the logistics, the reality was a reality. But second of all, that the pressure that individuals like yourself, who by the way are also coaching, have on top of them. And I can understand where that all becomes more of a challenge. Obviously, if the pandemic doesn't happen, we're talking about a different situation here. Maybe you're still coaching. Maybe your health's fine. Maybe doing both jobs isn't the end of the world. But did you ever consider, all right, listen, maybe I need to stop coaching and just do AD? Or was coaching too strong? That's either I'm coaching or I'm not doing anything.
I think the coaching part was too strong. Even though things turned out the way it is, and I feel terrible for the kids that I left behind, especially, Emma and Brooke, my two seniors, but I stayed in contact with them. And it sometimes, I'm not a person that ever really stops to think about me. And for the first time in my life, I think I stopped and thought about me and us as a family. Capital got everything they could possibly get from me, more sometimes than what I could give to my own family. And my daughter's coaching, and I got to watch her coach her middle school teams, and she just lost in a championship game, but I couldn't have been more proud of her. Her game plan was spot on, and she didn't call mom and ask first. She went ahead and game planned it, then called mom, and then she said, "This is what I'm going to do." And I said, "Well, make sure you do this, this, and this." And she did really well, and I'm really proud of her. And those are things I have always had to pass up on for the several last years. Walking in the winter snow, I don't generally get to do that, and I'm getting to do that right now. And I think the crazy thing for me right now, I still haven't had time to really reflect on the career, because I've heard for so many alumni, former parents, and I'm telling you, I'm gonna have to go on a diet, as many lunches and dinners that I've been doing.
Yeah, you can probably get enough meals and drinks for the rest of the time and be totally fine. Just on
I'm having a good time with that. Okay.
Well, just on your alumni basis. Listen, you were 35 years with the university. I'm just reading the press release, which, by the way, was interesting. It came out via the institution first, just as an aside. That's not typical, but it is what it is. Just fascinating. 35 years. Again, you reached the 700 win plateau, 741 to be exact. That's a lot of wins, and it felt like it was just like there's a saying in Baltimore. Here's what I'm trying to get at. There was a saying in Baltimore for a long time: death, taxes, and Cal Ripken. It felt like for a long time it was especially at Capital, but in Division III women's basketball to some degree, death, taxes, and Dixie Jeffers, or Capital women's basketball. You were going to be in the conversation. You were always going to be part of that conversation as a coach and as a program for so long, that I think that was the part for me that just struck me around Christmas was, wait a minute, the rest of the season doesn't have Dixie. Yes, it might have Capital. I know the team wasn't having off to as great a start as it had been in the past, but you're not technically a part of everything. I think for us, that's even hard. But for you, how has that transition from going from full bore to zero, how's that transition gone?
Well, it's went incredibly well. My husband, he's waiting for me to have some kind of breakdown or something. And he goes, "I'm just amazed at how well that you're doing." He goes, "You're doing better than I am." And I said, "Oh, so you want me to go get a job or something?" And he starts laughing. But I brought all my stuff home, and I've taken the downstairs basement, and I call it the locker room. It's now became the Crusader room, and it feels like home to me.
I love it.
I'm a person that once I move forward with something else, I don't tend to look back. I have incredible memories there. It's the relationships that I'll always, always cherish. And I still have many of those relationships. Like I said, the lunches and the dinners have been a lot of fun. And, it may not be the end of the story. For right now, it is. I've enjoyed being able to get the much needed rest that I needed. And I'm enjoying so-called retirement to its fullest right now.
But the backdrop is awesome. I absolutely love it. It is giving me new ideas. I don't know if I can do a full thing like that, but I got ideas. My wife and I talked about this. I might take a page out of that.
That's from 94-95 national championship team. So
that is cool.
You can believe me, I enjoyed the memories looking at that.
I am sure. One thing that's amazing, I don't think people talk enough about. You talked about your daughter, Julie Folks down at Transylvania, Andrea Preston at Goucher. There's a rich coaching tree of not only great players that turned coaches, but even just players you had on your program who became pretty solid coaches. We talk about coaching trees in other realms. I don't think I appreciated yours as much either. What does it mean to you, the legacy that you're leaving?
again, I haven't really stopped to think about it because I've stayed in touch with most of these people, and Denise Beerley's out Eastern Connecticut. I still have OAC coaches calling me and saying, hey, what about this? Which is kind of interesting, saying, and I'm going, okay, you're right. I'm not, not the opponent anymore. I can sit here and talk to you about it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that's been interesting too. I hope that I know that they understand the work habits and the grind. Even Camille at Capitol still understands the grind, because it is a grind, and that's what people don't understand, how much you give of yourself for someone else's kids.
Yeah.
But I always taught them to be honest, always taught them to work hard, always taught them to give the best that they had to their student athletes and to lead by example. And I think about Julie, and I think about Andrea in particular. There's no two other people better in the business right now that continue to do that.
Yeah, I love Andrea. I wish her program could be doing better, but I know it's not from a lack of effort.
No, it's not from lack of effort. She hits it hard.
Yeah, she does. Right now she's throwing things at the computer, wishing I'd shut up. Do you wish you got the opportunity for a swan song? In other words, a trip through the OAC where coaches could give you your just due? Or are you glad you did it this way?
I'm glad I did it this way.
Yeah.
I'm not one that needs a lot of fanfare.
Yeah.
Incredible things have happened to me in my life. And regardless of what people that know me know, this isn't my nature to have to be out front on everything. I love to see the product going. And even though how hard I worked for the game of basketball, I'm really, really proud of how I helped reshape what the national championship looks today for Division III. Daniel Donahue has done an incredible job, continues to work really hard for women's basketball, but being able to take it and start to reshape it, it looks much differently than what it did when I went through and what was going on from the national committee at one point. And I think the student athletes are getting their due justice now with the All-Star game joining, and hopefully it's going to continue to go ahead and go off this year again with Pat Manning and that great group, because I sat on that committee and I loved all those people, Brian Morehouse, and they just do such good work. And those kind of things need to continue to happen. And it's like I told the people on the committee, I said, the work's not done. The work's just beginning. Mm-hmm. There's so much more work to do. And now you younger people are going to have to pick up what we have done to continue the road to success.
No, I'll freely admit, when I look at things from the WBCA perspective, there's been individuals, you and I have talked in a ton off air about a lot of that stuff and improving those things. And I think of Pat Manning, I'm like, this is great. But at some point, you all will step aside and somebody else has to come up. And I think about it on the NABC side too. Nothing against the Charlie Brocks of the world, but there's got to be the younger group that starts stepping in. And sometimes it happens naturally. But
Chanel Murchison on the West Coast, and you've got Jill Congrove that's on the committee.
Yep.
Those are strong, good coaches, young coaches that give us that diversity piece and also give us that winning attitude and so forth. And those are the young women. And there's young men still in the business that are good, that need to keep the movement going, because Brian's done an incredible job too.
You did change or help change so much. Again, you talk about adding the All-Star game. I know that was something that you and Pat Manning and the rest really badly wanted to do. It took some time. It wasn't as easy as the NABC had it, but you got it accomplished. You also, look, this year we're going to have it on CBS Sportsnet, the women's tournament. We should point out, by the way, those games will be on Thursday and Saturday this year in a little bit of a quirk, or Thursday, Friday in a little bit of a quirk. We'll talk about it later down the road. But again, the game will be on network, which is something that hasn't happened. You guys hosted it along with Salem to try and make it a bigger deal instead of this constant rotation of places that didn't even know it was taking place. There's a lot that's changed there. And so it begs this question, Dixie. It begs this question, especially for how much Columbus does. Where's your next move? And is it still to be somewhat involved in this stuff per Columbus's kind of Salem-esque role in the NCAA and extracurricular events?
Well, let me tell you about Linda Logan, a dear friend, and has just done incredible things for the city of Columbus and for basketball, and particularly Division III women's basketball. It's a great partner when I was at Capitol with her, and she continues. And there's another Final Four. They'll be in there another couple of years. And they just continue to want those national championships back in there and to keep profiling. I got to tell you, I went down to the women's volleyball national championship. Unbelievable. It replicated the women's basketball championship almost to a T. Packed house, crowd was incredible. They just do an incredible job with what's going on. Yes, I'm still going to stay involved. Yes, I'm still going to gender equity meetings. I'm still involved with the city and so forth. I'm not going to go and crawl in a hole because that's not who I am. Plus, I still want to make a difference, and it's just going to be in a different capacity. And, there's a lot of things that could go happen and possibly happen. I'm not even looking to work right now. I just want to continue to enjoy what I'm enjoying right now.
Well, hey, listen, first off, thank you for what you've done with women's basketball. And from my perspective, saying that, it sounds maybe a little bit strange, but there's a lot of reasons that WBCA has gotten involved with Hoopsville. You're certainly one of them, but what you've done, and I've tried to understand better, is what you wanted to emulate and get bigger with women's basketball. You've been a cheerleader and an ambassador of women's basketball to the nth degree, and I've loved every conversation I've had with you about what it could be. I leave it always going, this is awesome, or this is great, I can't wait. So congratulations on the retirement, but thank you for what you've done. Let me
say one more thing.
No, we'll get there. I'll get you there. Hold on. Okay, I just want to wrap my end up by saying thanks, but congrats on your career too.
I appreciate that, but what you have done for Division III women's basketball is incredible. And my colleagues and I, for the last 10 years especially, always say, where would we be without D3 Hoops jumping in and Dave McHugh being there and doing the different things that you've done. You have brought a profile to women's basketball that shouldn't go unnoticed as well. And because of you and your efforts and what you're doing, I mean, look at your little place. Look where you started and to what you have right now. The following and everything. So kudos to you and thank you. But I do want to make a plug for Debbie Antonelli's Nothing But Net with Special Olympics.
Oh, great.
That is something that I am involved with and that we're trying to do. And we're going to do a challenge in May 14th. There's going to be a challenge in the OAC. And that's when Debbie will go on ESPN and so forth and start to shoot her 100 free throws. And we're trying to accompany her on that because the funding, whatever we raise, stays in the state for your Special Olympians of your state. So it's a great cause. And Debbie and I got this together in the fall, and I want to see that through and so forth. And the OAC is working on that right now.
No, great plug. Keep us informed if you don't mind. I'd love to know more about it. Thank you for the kind words, but honestly, it's all of you behind the scenes who helped let us do what we need to do. I appreciate it, though. Coming from you means a lot, and I do appreciate that. I've taken a lot of your time. We always give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those as you enjoy your retirement before we let you go?
Well, I'm a huge Bengals fan and have been ever since Paul Brown went down there, and I'm from a family of 6 brothers, and a father just loved Paul Brown. So Hoo Day, baby, Hoo Day.
Very well said. Enjoy Sunday, please.
Thank you very much.
Dixie, I know this was last minute. It means a world to me that you agreed to come on. Please don't be a stranger. If you want to come on and chat women's hoops or something else is important, please let us know. We will find the spot for you and we will get you on. We love chatting with you. Enjoy retirement and take your time. And we'll look forward to talking to you down the road. That's the best I can say.
I feel very, very blessed to the career that I've had and blessed with the people I'm supported by. So thank you very much.
Well said. Dixie, take care. Good luck.
Thank you.
Dixie Jeffers was joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline. Doesn't get better than that. Really, seriously. Love Dixie. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our women's conversation with 2 basketball players who are now coaches. We'll talk to Kean women's basketball coach Mandy King and then women's basketball coach at Millikin, Olivia Lett. You listen to Hoopsville presented by D3Hoops.com from the NABC WBCA studios. Back with more after this.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference. For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
There are over 480,000 college athletes. Only 2% would go pro. That means over 470,000 will not get a shoe contract. No autographs. No private jets. No fan clubs. No Hall of Fame inductions. Instead, they will walk away with something much more valuable.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, running late. You know what? We've been good this season. Not on this show. Not doing well on this show. We're going to keep things moving. We got 2 guests left, and the second one was supposed to start right about now, and we're just getting to the next one. Anyway, we'll keep it moving. Got questions for us? Tweet us, email us, Facebook us, whatever you want to do. Information scrolling at the bottom of your screen. And yeah, it's supposed to say D3 Hoops, but it says D3 Oops. Maybe it was on purpose. A little Freudian. All right, talking NJAC, we're used to Montclair State kind of leading the way there, but if you look at the standings, they're not on top right now. It's a little bit of a jumble in terms of what the NJAC looks like this year, but what jumps out at me is Kean, 12-2 in the conference. They have 6 losses. Believe it or not, 4 of them came in the opening 5 games of the season. Since then, they've been on a tear with only 2 losses, of course, one of them being to Montclair and one of them being to Rowan in conference play, but they're on top of conference action in women's basketball. So it's about darn time we got into the NJAC and talked about what's going on in that conference. And joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline with a pretty cool background, I must say, it's Mandy King, the head coach of the 14-6 Cougars. Cougars, right? Hold on. Yeah, I'm right. Coach, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor to be here with you and have a chance to talk about such a special group of young women. I'm so excited. Thank you.
Absolutely. Appreciate it myself. Let's just start about the beginning. Again, 4 losses in the first 5 games. Now, Lost to NYU, looks pretty good right now. Lost to Marymount, who knows what that looks like right now. They're finding their waves. You beat Baruch, then lost to Stevens and Cabrini, usually pretty good coach teams. But I'm kind of curious, your take. In the first 10 days, you play 5 games, you lose 4 of them. That can derail a program for the rest of the season. What was going through the team at the moment? How are you all doing with that opening stretch?
Yeah, it was one of the toughest schedules that I've ever put together. And I got to tell you, through the middle of it, I was doubting myself. But we have a great group of seniors that understand what it takes to be successful. And this is their last chance at winning the NJAC. And we knew in order to be prepared, for Montclair, for Rowan, and for the grind that is the NJAC, that we had to play some of the best teams. And, going up against NYU and Marymount and Cabrini and Stevens, it really prepared us for NJAC play. And, thankfully, we just had seniors that understood that it was all about how good can we get by November 23rd when we see Montclair. And they really bought into it and just kept working hard. And their example was something I'll never forget.
Well, that was the thing. 2 games later, you beat Brooklyn and then you beat Montclair. And they're 14-7. It's not like Karen doesn't have a really good program year in and year out. That had to be a significant win, not only because it helps kind of springboard you into the rest of the season and what you're doing now, but more importantly, that's been the Goliath of this conference for years, and getting that win had to feel good just from a perspective of, great, we finally got that one, and that's huge.
Oh, absolutely. Montclair is the standard, and really they're playing as good as anybody right now as well. So, it's a tough league, and again, being able to beat a Montclair team, it just gives your kids a lot of confidence that, you can now set the standard for the league as well.
When you look at, since then, again, on a tear, you lost to Rowan on the road on December 4th in a low-scoring affair, and you lost to Montclair. Karen got you back at their place on January 19th, again in a low-scoring affair. What jumps out at me is when you guys play your game, you're going to put about 60-some-odd points on the scoreboard. You're going to hold your opponents to about 40. But if the flip happens, if you're having an off night on offense and the defense is able to kind of stifle you guys, it's a tough go. Is that a fair way of looking at how you guys have played your games this year?
Sure, absolutely. This has been probably the best defensive and rebounding team that I've had at Kean in quite some time. And, it's actually surprised us that our offense hasn't really gotten going yet. We just haven't shot the ball, and that's attributed to the tough defenses in this league and the great coaches. But I have such a gritty group that no matter what happens, like if shots aren't falling for us, my guys are going to find a way to win. And I just believe in them so much. And, we're just really fortunate that our defense and rebounding has held us in games. And then, we have Shannon McCoy, and at any point, Shannon McCoy can change a game. And it's been a blessing to have her in our program. And I can't wait to see what this group accomplishes next.
We'll talk about the individuals in a moment. You mentioned Shannon, but I want to talk about something that jumps out at me when I look at the stat sheet. A lot of teams, especially having great seasons, it looks like this, statistically you're having a great season. When I look at yours, I kind of scratch my head because shooting percentage, almost identical to your opponent. 3-point shooting, pretty much identical to your opponent. Free throw shooting, about identical to your opponent. Rebounding, about identical to your opponent. Scoring, about identical to your opponent. When you look statistically at the team numbers, nothing jumps out. And that's not a knock. That's more raising the question, what is it about this unit that's done so well? Granted, some of those stats could be thrown off by a couple of those losses that certainly didn't go in your favor. But what is it about the team that we're not seeing statistically that is clicking and making you guys so successful this year?
Well, I think first of all, it really just shows how good the league is. So I think, just a credit, it's again to the great players and great coaches and teams in this league. That's why it's so even across the board. I know coaches like to say on any given night, anybody can win, but truly in the NJAC, anybody can win. And, so that's why I think it's so balanced. But this group, we have 4 seniors and who lost in the NJAC championship as freshmen.
Yeah.
And they've really bought into our system. They're a tough group. They're very disciplined, and they're together, and they play with a joy that's just unmatched. So they just have it. It's not, and again, there isn't really a situation that they haven't been in these last 4 years. So I think their experience keeps them calm, keeps them locked in the moment. And all of these games have come down to 1 or 2 possessions that could have gone either way. But our girls really find a way to make that play when it matters most, and then they have the confidence to go win.
You're talking about Shannon McCoy, 16 and a half, well, really almost 17 points a game at 16.8. Shoots 32% from the floor. She's leader in rebounding at 7.8. She's second on the team in assists. She's second on the team in steals. There's a lot she certainly, shoots 85% from the free throw line on top of that. There's a lot of things she does well. Tell us a little bit about Shannon and how the team feeds off of her.
Shannon is a once-in-a-lifetime student athlete. She's a 4.0 student, and it's impossible to have a bad day around Shannon McCoy. She plays the game with so much joy. She loves her teammates. She's completely humble. And when she's making shots, we feel like we can't be beat. So it's like, we talk all the time about that character drives winning. And she is the best example of that I really have ever seen, in my career as a coach. And it's just an absolute pleasure to be her coach. And she's really competitive. She comes from a competitive family, and, she's this joyful kid, but she is so competitive. Like, she is going to find a way to win, and she's fearless. She's going to play with a lot of courage, and she's going to try to make everybody around her better. And, she really believes in herself and in her teammates, and it makes us a pretty powerful force.
Brittany Graff, second on the team, 12 and a half points, shoots pretty well, except for free throws. I'm sure you'd like to talk to a lot of players about their free throw shooting. And we got other players. I certainly want to mention Sarah Olivia Olivero, Kayla Anderson, Macy Seaman, and others. You play a lot of players too. You go deep on the bench. How important is that as you now get into the back end of this grind and head towards NJAC play, knowing that you're probably going to have to win the NJAC to punch a ticket to the NCAAs?
Oh, absolutely. I think like the first thing that you mentioned was Brittany Graff. And I wanted to go back to that because I don't think she gets enough credit. She really is the heart and soul of our team. And I think a lot of our players have gotten recognition, but she is a two-way player that just finds a way to win. And the only flaw are the free throws, like, as you mentioned, but we're just not going to talk about that.
Okay.
But you should, it's like anytime there's a 50-50 ball, anytime there needs to, we need to score off our defense, she's going to make a play, and she does a really good job in pick and roll situations, and she raises the level of everyone around her. So I'm so happy that you talked about her, because the statistics are there, but it's everything else that a stat sheet doesn't show that makes her so special. So thank you for mentioning her.
Absolutely.
The heart that she plays with is something that's pretty admirable.
Before we jump off topic on the team, you got 3 games left, 2 on the road and 1 then at home to finish it off against William Patterson, Stockton, Rutgers, Camden, William Patterson. And then hopefully the conference tournament comes through you. That's at least how it's positioned now. How important is that? Again, with the fact that the NCAA tournament probably has to be punched as an AQ, how important is it that they got to come through the Cougars' den and not you going on the road?
In the past, like 3 years ago when we went to the championship, we were on the road the entire time. And I've seen teams make beautiful runs on the road. So, we've emphasized being able to win on the road so that we can play at home, but we certainly know that these championships can be won in any way. But I think this year it could be a factor because there's a new tournament set up and you're playing Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So I think, being able to be at home is going to help just with recovery for the girls. And you can stick to a routine, with their rest and nutrition, and hopefully getting a little bit of sleep and continuing to get some reps up to try to get, continue to improve. So I think that will have an impact, and the depth of your bench, I think, will be more of a factor this year. But again, we know better than anybody that anything can happen. So we're just trying to beat Stockton on Wednesday.
You're in your 10th season at Kean. Interesting enough, you came from Washington and Lee prior to that, where you spent 8 seasons. Curious what drove you to come to the NJAC out of what was a pretty good ODAC. Granted, the NJAC's maybe a better women's conference. I don't know. It depends on the year. But what makes the decision to leave a WNL program to come to an NJAC program?
Yeah, it was really a difficult decision to leave Washington and Lee. We built that program and had won a conference championship, and I loved my players there. It was a really difficult decision, but I did my graduate work at the College of New Jersey, and having the opportunity to come back to the NJAC, and I just thought was an opportunity to be successful on the national level. And as a player, I had the opportunity to play for a national championship, and it shapes everything that I do as a coach now. And my goal was to not only win the NJAC, but to win a national title as a coach at Kean. And I felt like all of those things could be done. So it's really an honor to be here.
We teased ahead of time, you're a former student athlete in Division III. You played at Southern Maine under the great Coach Pfeiffer back in the late 90s. We were talking off air before the segment started. I think I ended up watching your team on local TV. If it wasn't the championship game, it might have been the semi. If it wasn't the semi, it might have been the previous weekend. When I was up in Maine skiing at Sunday River, honestly, with a friend, that was my introduction to the larger picture of Division III. Obviously, I knew it from my institution. So kind of interesting. You were under a really good head coach with a really good program. Is that what kind of got the coaching bug into you?
Oh, absolutely. And, we had a terrific athletic director in Al Bean, and I had a great coach in Gary Fifield. And,
I said Pfeiffer, didn't I? How did I do that? Yeah, Fifield. Sorry. Just realized I misspoke on that. Odd.
I figured you just had a nickname for him.
I don't know where that came from, to be completely honest. I've never said that in my life.
But yeah, it was an incredible experience, and my best friends are still my teammates from that time. And that experience as a student athlete and having a chance to go to a Final Four and have it on your home floor was something I'll just never forget. And it drives everything that I do as a coach, because I want my girls to have that experience, because again, winning at that level, it just helps fuel the sisterhood that you have a chance to create during your college years. And things are hard, and you want a whole group of women that are going to be there for you when times are good, to celebrate that and to have your back when it gets hard. And so I think that's what we've continued to do, as a staff, is to build that sisterhood, and we understand what's important.
Wash, you came through your neck of the woods, I think. Were they in the championship game that year?
Yes, they were. Was
that the run where they were I'm trying to double check their undefeated stretch. 98 sounds about when they were going through that undefeated stretch, right?
It was I think they won the next 3 or 4 in a row.
Okay.
So yeah, it was incredible.
I couldn't remember. Here we go. 98. Oh yeah, they had lost. So yeah, you're right. It was the next 2 seasons where they went undefeated, and set that mark of 80 plus. So, I mean, you're also going up against one of the best programs. It was literally the 2 best programs in Division III going at it on your home floor. Did you appreciate that at the time?
Oh, not at all. I thought just everybody had an opportunity to win 20 games every year and go to the Final Four and host a national championship. I was pretty spoiled as a player. And, I thought it would just automatically happen as a coach.
Sure.
So that's what I thought at 26. I've learned a little bit more since then. So, but yeah, it was just an incredible experience. And I'm so grateful for it, for all the people that, are still, in my life because of that experience.
Random question. Is it hard to look at your alma mater and not see that same success continue? Understanding it's hard to keep going anyway. Or is it understandable?
I think it's understandable. Sustaining success like that, it's really difficult to do. And I think coaching gets harder and harder every single year. And, the standard was set really high while we were there. But I certainly wish them the best of luck, and I'm hoping they, year by year, they get back to a place where, we can talk about winning national championships again.
Back to your team, you got 3 games left in the regular season, as we mentioned, then possibly 3 games in the tournament to try and punch your ticket what's the message to the team in the locker room and whether out on the practice court or wherever about getting through this next run?
We've talked just about the little things, just making sure that, that all those little things are going to lead to improvement every single day, every single moment. And we've been using the theme, one play, one life. And so it keeps you locked into the moment and then understanding you only get one chance to do this. And so I think our girls have really bought into that and they try to live it every single day. And, I think something magical is going to happen if we can stay locked in.
Well, I appreciate the time, the insight on your team. Thanks for coming on and being a little bit adaptive to us as we're running late here. As always, you give the coach, though, the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for covering these young women. I'm so proud of their courage. I think it's young women and coaches across the country as, we navigate this pandemic and continue to find ways to bring joy and help people feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. And, and just a reminder that, man, you only get one opportunity to do this, so we get a chance to coach and play a game that we love with people that we care about. And it just doesn't get any better than this.
No, well said. Well said indeed. Well, good luck the rest of the way. Seriously, looking forward to seeing how the NJAC plays out, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
All right. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Mandy King joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline. We're going to take a quick break. Let's talk to another former student athlete, now head coach of a women's basketball program. Olivia Lett joins us from Millikin. They're also having a pretty darn good season. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the NABC studios. Back with more after this.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure, the game is important. But as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
Now joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline as we get back on, well, I jumped the gun there a little bit. I should say welcome back to Hoopsville. We're in our penultimate segment. We'll wrap up the show after this one as we're running a little bit late. But if you got questions for us or our guests, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Trust me, it's hashtag D3Hoops. I just ignore the board that we're going to fix before the next show over my shoulder. Continuing the theme, women's basketball teams who are being coached by former student athletes. One of the student athletes that was tearing up the CCIW for a long time was Olivia Lett when she was at Illinois Wesleyan. Now she's kind of tearing things up from a coaching perspective, as she's certainly turned Millikin around and made them a force. They're on top of the conference now, ahead of her alma mater. I'm sure everyone's smiling about it. I'm sure no one's got any hard feelings. I'm sure it's all been a blast. But I wanted to know more about this Millikin team because they are playing really good basketball. So joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline, the aforementioned Olivia Lett joining us. First and foremost, thanks for the time and turning on your camera. We appreciate it. Good to see you. How's the season going from your perspective?
Well, thanks for having me. It's been nice to kind of be back to normal with last year's COVID season. We did try to beef up our non-conference schedule. This was the first time that we've really had the ability to do that. Got a chance to go on the road and play Chicago, Wisconsin Lutheran, DePaul. That was a tough week. I went 0 for 3 in that week. So I think we learned a lot. Really, that was the first time in my 4 years here that we've played true top 25 competition, and felt like we were really, right there with them. And so I think that was a little bit of a wake up call in terms of some of the things that we needed to get better at. One of the things, DePaul is always just so well coached, and they do all the little things right. And I think that was something after that we really tried to emphasize, boxing out, making sure that all the physicality that they play with, I think that's a big thing. And a lot of times in those first couple of years, we weren't getting that until we got into conference play. So it was a good kind of prep to get into CCIW. I think it prepared us a little bit more. Obviously, we've got a lot of returners right now, still a little bit young, but more returners than what we've had in the past. And so they were a little bit more prepared for CCIW games. But I think we went through a stretch there where we didn't lose for a while, and then went up to Wesleyan and got our butts kicked a little bit. And so got brought back into reality there.
A little bit of a welcome back home gift for you. Yeah, I want to go back to that stretch. First off, you talked about putting together a tougher schedule, more, I don't want to say more national necessarily, that writing, but more competitive. Is it because you knew you had a team with you that was going to need that kind of schedule? Or is it more about, all right, it's time to turn this program in not a different direction, but more towards where I want to head it. No matter whether they're ready for it or not, we need to start playing more competitive schedules. And here we go.
Yeah, I think that some of it is to prep us for CCIW play, because I do think the CCIW is strong. It's a physical league. I think those first couple of years, our freshmen, by the time we'd get to CCIW, they might be rolling, and then they'd get into the conference play, and it was a little bit different. And so I think some of it is to prep us for that conference play, but then we got bigger dreams. We want to compete in an NCAA tournament. In order to do that, you got to play NCAA teams prior to conference as well, and beef up that strength of schedule a little bit. Also be prepared for what that feels like. We played quite a few back-to-back games in that non-conference-ish stretch. We went up to Chicago, played back-to-back. We played back-to-back the very first weekend, and then we played North Central, WashU back-to-back right before Christmas. And I think that's a stretch that people don't understand what that feels like as a player when you go 4 straight weekends in the NCAA tournament. Once you include conference play, against really high competition, it does something to your body, and that second day is tough. And we talked about that a lot in those stretches of making sure that we were ready to bounce back in that second day, and being prepared for that. And so a lot of it was with NCAA play in mind, because we know that's what our goal is, and we know that we want to make a run when we get there.
When you look at the rest of the schedule, obviously you came out of that trio of games in November, maybe licking your wounds a little bit, but then kind of caught fire. You had a conference game 2 games later. You beat Augustana in that one by 11. You beat Elmhurst. You beat Carroll. You beat North Central. And then you went and beat WashU. So obviously something must have clicked after those 3 games to go out and be able to get the run you made after that, and then go until the 19th of January without a loss.
I really feel like it was that DePaul game, because of all the little things that they do right. I know we went on to lose 2 more games after that, but they're just a program that is very solid. They don't make a lot of mistakes, and I think when we walked away from that game and the physicality of that game, our kids realized how hard we need to compete in practice. And we were getting away with being a little sloppy about different things. And so we got in practice, even we started emphasizing all of the little things. And I really think that, it took a little bit for that to really catch on. And I think that helped us turn the corner. It just helped us get back to what we really wanted to be about. We play fast, and I think sometimes it's easy to get sloppy when you're playing fast. And so that helped us get back to really trying to be who we are. We want to outwork people. We want to be tougher than people. And that night specifically, both those things, DePaul was better than us at. And I think that's a big wake-up call when those are things that you pride yourself on.
So the question then is begged to be asked: what happened in your old stomping grounds? They got you guys by 20. It seemed like a game that got out of hand quick.
Yeah, they did a lot of things that just exploited some of our weaknesses, similar to what DePaul did. They took advantage of some of our pressure and put us in positions where it definitely looked like we weren't prepared for those things. And I think we struggled with their press a little bit. I said some things that took us out of who we are. And I think that's a good lesson for me as a coach too. There's different things that got us to that point. And so I said some different things that got us a little bit more on our heels. And instead of really playing the way that we play and being true to who we are, we try to make sure that we're not adjusting a ton for other teams, because I think that takes you out of your rhythm. And that night we did. And so I don't think that helped us any. And so, we've got a slightly different game plan going into this one tonight. And I think we feel a little bit more prepared than we did at that moment. And so, sometimes it's good to get smacked in the mouth because it helps you wake up, it helps you reevaluate some things. We're doing scouts a little bit different. Practices are a little bit different. The players are getting more input in terms of different things that we're doing. We went through a stretch where my assistant coaches had to run some practices, and I think that is going to help us in the long run too, just in terms of them getting their voice a little bit more, and our upperclassmen having to take a little bit more control of the program. And in the long run, hopefully it works out for us.
Yeah, we should point out, we were joking off air before we got started. Nothing else going on today. No big deal. You just happen to have the rematch. You two teams are both tied atop the conference at 10-1. Obviously, a win today would help almost pretty much give you the home court for the conference tournament, because you'd hand them a second loss, split the season series, things go your way, barring nothing happens in the final 4 games. So it's a big game. It's also a game that's moved several times. I think for weather, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
Not for
Yes.
COVID. There's a lot up on this one. I'm sure everyone's aware of that. Moving it, has that been beneficial?
We've been ready to play for a while.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's felt like every day was a pregame practice, and then you wake up the next morning and you find out you're not playing. That's a weird feeling to go through for 6 days. And then to play Carroll on Saturday when that's not who you were planning on playing for most of the week is also a very weird feeling. And so, you get a little bit more prep. To be honest with you, yesterday we didn't do a ton because we felt like we had already done most of the prep work. I do think Carroll is a similar team to both us and Wesleyan in that they play faster, they press. And so I do think that was a good game for us to get in before this one as well. I think that the extra time is good and bad. It's just how you take it. They've got Brooke Lansford had a huge game for them on Saturday. She's had a great senior season. And then they've got 30 freshmen that have really stepped up for them. And I think they really hit their stride in our first game and have played well for them throughout conference. And so they're a scary team and obviously can get hot and put the ball in the basket.
Talk about a little bit of your team. You're led by Elise Knudsen.
Correct.
Cool. I got it right. Finally. 19.5 points a game, 6 rebounds a game. Leads the team in assists as well. Leads the team, or second on the team in steals. Co-leader in blocks. Does a lot of things right statistically. Obviously shoots well as well. You got 2 others in double figures, Bailey Kaufman and Jordan Heidelbrand. 13.3 respect and 11 points per game respectively. Good rebounders as well. And Aubrey Stanton, by the way, not that far from double digits. Tell me a little bit about that core group on a team that, at least statistically, looks like you go pretty deep on the bench.
Yeah, so obviously, Elise was All-American last year. She's just a special player. You don't see kids like that very often. Can take over a game at any moment. It just has one of the most pure shots that you've seen. Can handle the basketball. Between her and Miranda Fox, sometimes they're just one man or one woman press breaks. And she is truly just like an amazing teammate too. You know, she wants to get other people involved. She wants to create great shots for other people. And, you know, Saturday was her kind of turning point in terms of defensively too, got back to what we saw last year during the playoffs, and really did a really good job on one of Carroll's best players. And so hopefully that continues moving forward. You know, Jordan Hildebrand came back for 5th year for us as a freshman, you know, won 8 games, as a sophomore, won 8 games. And then, you know, to go 16 games, 16 wins, and then a conference championship, got her to come back for that 5th year. You know, a nursing major that decided to come back and get her MBA so that she could come back for a 5th year. And just a tough kid, blue collar kid. You know, she's kind of the heart and soul of our defense. She probably knows it better than I do at this point, and is just directing traffic out there, getting people in the right spots. You know, comes back and can, in her role, almost, you know, statistically continues to go down, you know, in terms of she decided to come back because she wanted to help win a championship, not what she was going to achieve individually. And I think that speaks volumes about kind of where our team is, our team culture, and what type of leader she is for us as well. And then Bailey Kaufman obviously can go off on any night. You know, just a tough matchup as a 6-foot kid that can shoot from outside or get to the rim, just knows how to score. And then Aubrey State right now, I think, is shooting almost 45% from 3. That was something that we really talked about with her, was that she needed to get back to getting in the gym and shooting at that high percentage. You know, as a freshman, she averaged about 16.5 points for us. And again, her role has gone down, and she's been okay with that because it's meant more wins for the team. And Jazz Brown moved out of the starting lineup for us because that helps us, you know, as a senior. She's been starting for 2 or 3 years, moves out of the starting lineup. Again, role kind of goes down, wins go up. And I think that's something that for this team is really big. You know, Miranda Fox takes between 2 and 3 charges a game. One game she took, I think, 5. Just a tough, hard-nosed kid that, you know, runs the one for us, gets us into the right stuff. And so we talk a lot about having pieces to a puzzle, you know, and I think that's something that Elise gets a lot of notoriety. But it's because of all of those pieces around her that she's able to do what she does. And I think that's really, really important, to have kids that understand that their roles and understand how important those things are.
You, of course, bring that perspective as a student athlete, played at Illinois Wesleyan. Your final 2 seasons, you guys were in the championship, including at home in 2011. You got to the weekend. You weren't in the championship game, but you got to the weekend in Bloomington. Unfortunately, Wash U was a buzzsaw that season, and Christopher Newport didn't really treat you well in the 3rd place game, but it was a 3rd place game after all. But you seemed to get your revenge the next year, defeated St. Thomas in the semifinals. You guys went on in a great game against George Fox. Of course, those games, unfortunately, at Hope in that case. Tell me a little bit about that experience as a student athlete and how it's helping you as a head coach and kind of mold this team that at Millikin currently.
Yeah, I think, you know, what I just talked about is really a great segue into it too. You know, I think that senior year, we had just great pieces to a puzzle. You know, Britt Hasselbring was a super tough point guard that nobody wanted to go against. Karen Solari played the 4 for us offensively so that I could play a guard. She guarded a 3 so that I didn't have to guard a guard.
You wanted the easy job. I got it.
Correct. Yes. You know, Mel Gardner shot, I think, 45% from 3. And like I said, just a bunch of pieces to a puzzle, a bunch of people that hated to lose. And I think that's something that is really important. You know, if you look on paper, that team my junior year is probably better than my senior year in terms of individual pieces. But the team my senior year just fit really well together. And again, those people let me do what my job was in terms of the scoring part and allowed that part to be easy. You know, earlier we talked about kind of those back-to-back weekends and how tough those are. And I think so in terms of a scheduling thing, I think that's something that I really try to keep in perspective in that non-conference, is getting us prepared for that. Because it's hard to understand what that feels like if you haven't been through it, especially when you start getting to that third or fourth weekend and you've done it for, 4 weeks. And I think that's something that we'll definitely take into account going into the conference tournament. If we're able to make the NCAA tournament, what that looks like in terms of days off, in terms of really trying to make sure that we're in shape going into those so that we can modify that a little bit once we get into that point. But I think just the competitive side of it is something that people don't understand, the level that you got to work every single day, and that there is no days off, and that when you are one of those top teams that you get everybody's best effort every single night. And I think we're seeing that a little bit more this year, is that we're getting everyone's best effort every single night. And that's something that it hasn't tripped us up yet, but it definitely scares me going into these last 4 or 5 games, because I think this is a tough stretch. We got Wesleyan tonight. We've got a scary North Central team up at their place on Wednesday. We've got North Park on Saturday. That's 4 games in 8 days. That's a tough stretch. And so this will be a good prep for, if we're able to make that NCAA tournament as well.
What's it like to go up against your former coach and Mia Smith on a regular basis since you're in the conference?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fun rivalry because, they are one of the best teams in the conference, right? I think everybody likes that storyline. But we really talk about the fact that they are the top team, right? And so it's trying to knock off them, and it's fun that it is a rivalry again. I think that speaks volumes about the work that our kids have put in, because when I was a player, it wasn't much of a rivalry. And I think before that, obviously, Millikin has a national title. I think during that stretch, it was a little bit more of a rivalry, and so it's fun to have it back there. If they're concerned about us, it means we're doing something right, and that's something that it is fun. It's enjoyable. We've got a lot of sports programs here that are getting back to that level. Kramer's doing a great job on the men's side. Wrestling is good here, baseball, softball. And so it's one of those things where we are starting to turn that corner, and it's a fun thing to be a part of.
I assume there's still a little bit of green in your blood, or is it all blue?
It's a fun experience to go back. It's fun to see people. It's fun to see those banners there, to play in front of that crowd. It's a hard feeling to explain to anybody. And so it is a cool atmosphere to be in. It's a cool game to be in. I'm blessed to be able to play, to be able to coach now in big games like this. Our teams talked a lot about that this week, was enjoying those moments, enjoying those times, because I do think as a player, we won a decent amount of conference titles there in a row, and it was something that was just expected. And I don't want to get to that point. I want us to enjoy those things. And so tonight's a fun game. It's really important to enjoy that, because not every team gets to play in games like that. Not every team gets to play in gyms that are going to have the energy of this game. And I think that's a really cool experience.
Well, obviously you'll enjoy it. That is clear. We appreciate the time. I know you got better things to do now and get ready for that game than to humor us, but I appreciate you bearing with us, and as we ran a little late today. But congratulations on a tremendous season. Congratulations on the program you've got rolling along there now. And congratulations just on wherever it takes you. I appreciate the time. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share, those tuned in?
I was listening to that right before, and I started to get nervous. But thank you guys for everything that you do. Truthfully, I know that's what a lot of people say, but my career would not, and I probably could say that more than anybody else, but my career would not be what it is today if it wasn't for you guys and all that you do in terms of supporting D3 sports and D3 hoops. And it just is, it's really cool for our kids and our players to have that experience. And I do appreciate everything that you guys do. And hopefully look forward to talking to you guys even more.
That'll be fun. Well, thank you. A little weird to have covered you in 2 different roles, but I'm settling into the fact that we've been around a bit. But thanks all the same. Really appreciate it. Have fun tonight, and we'll look forward to talking to you down the road.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Olivia Lett joining us from Millikin as her team takes on Illinois Wesleyan, her alma mater, coming up tonight in a big game in the CCIW. When we come back, we wrap things up. You're listening to Hoopsville. Back with more after this.
Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
National Association of Basketball Coaches works to further the best interests of the game of basketball and the coaches and players who participate in the sport. The NABC thanks its nearly 5,000 member coaches, including the many Division III coaches who impact our game, for upholding the core values of leadership, advocacy, service, education, and inclusion. For more information on the NABC, head to nabc.com. And of course, I want to thank the NABC for their support of D3 Hoops, of Hoopsville, I should say. It's easier for me to say than I thought. I want to appreciate them for their support and their help, as they always have been. Great to work with the NABC over the years. Also, WBCA, of course, Blue Frame Technology, and D3 Hoops for their support as well. Fun show today, a little bit longer than we anticipated. No top 25 chat. Again, we won't talk about top 25 this week at all. We're just going to take a break from it. The new poll will be coming out soon. My ballot will be in shortly. I'll admit, it's getting harder to vote. There are so many good teams, and Brian Baptiste brought that up at the end of the segment about why isn't Mass-Dartmouth maybe getting more top 25 attention. I think it's a valid argument, and I'll admit, looking at mine, it is a challenging shoehorn to try and get every team I think deserves to get top 25 attention into the top 25, including over teams that maybe I don't think are top 25 teams, but when I start breaking it down and looking at them, it's hard to argue they aren't. And so it's crazy. It's tough. And so I got a ballot that I got to submit, and I need to double check a few things before I do. But I can tell you, I got 25 teams up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I had 11 teams I was considering that weren't in the top 25, or 10, 11, something like that. So that's 35 plus teams, and probably could even go to 40 without much trouble. We'll see where some teams lie at the end of this poll. Yeshiva taking loss of Framingham State this weekend, I think, is an interesting one. They lost at home. When you dive into Framingham State, let's be honest, pretty good team. They're 14-7. They're not a horrible team. I think that's a better, I don't want to say better loss. I hate that term, but it's not a horrific loss. Should Yeshiva have won the game? Yeah, probably. But Illinois Wesleyan should have beaten Chicago Concordia, granted on the road. Maybe Platteville should have gotten at least one of the two against Oshkosh. And we can go through a lot of teams and wonder why they've got losses against teams that doesn't make any sense to us, or that shouldn't happen, or whatnot. There's very few teams that have no losses or very few losses that you don't have to think about. I mean, St. Joseph's is still undefeated. There's 2 teams with 20 wins already, Randolph-Macon and Oswego State. You've got a lot of teams with 2 losses or 1 loss. Williams is 14-1 right now and hasn't played a game in a while. I don't know when they're going to play next. So there's questions about them. Maryville's 17-1, or I'm sorry, 17-1. Marietta's 18-2. I watched Marietta against John Carroll this weekend. So, Yeshiva's 18-2. So the loss doesn't look great to Farmingdale State, but I don't think it looks as bad as others had anticipated. I think there's a lot of teams you can go through and take a game out and go, what in the world was this all about? And it makes doing the top 25 that much more difficult. And again, I've got 35 to 40 teams I'm trying to shoehorn in, and it's impossible. Makes for a tough look at it. It's a fascinating season on both the men's and women's side. I think the women's side is going to be interesting this week too. Do the top 25 votes stay the way they are right now? Who else is making waves that maybe should be in the top 25 that aren't? Sometimes when I'm booking guests, that's when I kind of spot teams that maybe aren't getting the attention they should be getting. And that includes me on the men's side, but even on the women's side. But we're into the last few weeks here. I mean, again, what was it, 3 weeks from today, right? We'll have brackets. Yep, 3 weeks from today, we'll have brackets. 2 weeks from today, we're going to be talking about most conference tournaments about to start up. And some of them will have already gotten going. A week from today, we'll be reacting or prepping for the next regional rankings after getting ready for this week's rankings or reacting to this week's rankings. Lots happening in the next few weeks. And as a result of that, a lot of teams are flying a bit under the radar that might surprise some people. I'll be fascinated to see how it all plays out. This is a fun time. It's fun that a year ago we knew this wasn't happening. We weren't heading towards a tournament. We weren't heading towards regional rankings. We weren't heading towards selections. Of course, 2 years ago, we thought everything was fine. I know the COVID virus was making news, but I wasn't paying attention because, we got a tournament ahead of us. No big deal. So a lot has changed in 2 years. A reminder, regional rankings for men will be out on Tuesday. For women, they'll be out on Wednesday. At this point, unless something changes, we will not do a show for Thursday, even though we said we might pre-tape it. There's just too much going on my schedule. And I just need to be smart versus trying to kill myself. We will try and do a reactionary show or a reactionary thing maybe on Twitter or Facebook. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But we'll try and react to the regional rankings on Tuesday. We'll try and react to regional rankings on Wednesday, but I cannot promise you anything. But stay with us on social media to find out what we might be doing. A reminder, those rankings will be alphabetical. We will put out tweets and links to remind everybody to tune in and get up to speed on that. I wasn't a fan when it first came out. I saw men's basketball was behind it. I didn't like it. Had an extensive conversation with Mike Schauer off the air that made me appreciate it better. And we've talked to him since, and I understand it better. So just be aware, it's alphabetical. We don't have all the data. Results versus regionally ranked opponents will not be in there. That'll come in the next week. We'll also have a lot of teams ranked. We have 10 regions now instead of 8. There's a lot going on. And I hope you'll stay with D3 Hoops and Hoopsville for all of that. Don't forget, go to D3 Hoops. By the way, our SOS information for women's is up, and we have a link to the men's. This is not NCAA data. This is based on what the math should be, so this is what we see it. We will compare when the first regional rankings come out to what the data said as of yesterday. Remember, the data is through Sunday for these regional rankings. We'll compare and make sure that our numbers are adding up, and if any changes need to be made, we'll make them. If any questions have to be made or questions have to be asked, we'll ask them. We'll figure out what needs to be adjusted to. Couple of twists. So we have the Selection Sunday show coming up in under 3 weeks. That'll be the 27th of February. We're working on our panels for that. We'll be hitting the air at 5 or 6 p.m. Eastern that night and just doing the selections. We'll even have some guests on as well on who we think will make the tournaments. We're looking into doing whip around the following weekend, but as I hinted at, there could be twists, and there already are twists. So I'm not sure if whip around is going to take place. I know Jay right now is peeved. We love doing whip around, but we have to make priority to other things too. So we're not sure if whip around will get done, but we'll do our best. And there you go. I'm going to be traveling this weekend, though, watching games as much as I can. I'm not going to be anywhere near a D3 program, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'd make the effort to go to a game if I was allowed. So we'll be back on the air next Monday in the evening. We'll go back to our normally evening shows. I'm debating about making up for the loss of Thursday because we won't have a chance to talk to those regions, 3, 5, 7, 9/10. So we may make it a slightly longer show on that Monday only just to get in some extra guests. But we'll cross that bridge in the next few days as we decide on things. If you got questions for us off air, if you have questions for us that you're curious about, you don't understand or whatever, we'll try and answer them for you. You're welcome to email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com. That's hoopsville@d3sports.com. You're welcome to tweet at us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Some people even direct message us. We allow direct messaging, even if we're not friends, though we just may not see it right away. And we're also on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. You can message us through there as well. So there you go. Coming up, we'll have the new top 25s this evening. And that's a Monday if you're listening on the podcast. And then we're going to take a week off. Not that we're going to be off. We'll be working. But we'll get unless you hear otherwise, we'll do some type of reactionary show in the next 2 days on the regional rankings. And then we'll at least get something out the door next Monday. I think we'll take Thursday off just due to the schedule. I want to thank our guests from today, Brian Baptiste from UMass-Dartmouth, John Krikorian from Christopher Newport, Mandy King from Kean, and Olivia Lett from Millikin. And a big thank you to Dixie Jeffers for coming on the show. What a great chat it was with her about Division III basketball, retirement, being an AD, her health, etc. Very revealing. Didn't expect it to be that revealing, but it was wonderful to hear her perspective on things. Appreciate her taking the time. Her retirement, the announcement before the show that Mark Hansen has retired. We also know Bill Fenlon has announced he's retiring. Of course, heard that we broke the news over the weekend that Matt Airy is out at Aurora. The coaching carousel is already spinning, and we'll see new coaches in new places next season as we always do. But congratulations on those retiring on tremendous careers. I also want to thank all the sports information directors at Mass-Dartmouth, Christopher Newport, Kean, Millikin, and Capital, who bailed me out at the last minute with a request. And, of course, all the other sports information directors out there for their assistance on this show as well. And that will do it. I want to thank D3Hoops.com, National Association of Basketball Coaches, Women's Basketball Coaches Association, Blue Frame Technology, for all the help they do in getting this show on the air. And I also want to thank all of you for tuning in and being a part of the show as well. You've been listening to Hoopsville. If you want to talk Division III basketball, you've got to listen to Hoopsville. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the week of basketball that is ahead of us and regional rankings and all that as we get those out the door. And again, get in touch with us if you got questions. We'll do our best to answer them, even if you don't like the answer. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the NABC studios. Thanks to our partners, the Women's Basketball Coaches Association and Blue Frame Technology. We'll see you back here throughout the week and next Monday. Good night, everybody.